afternoon. My name is Tom. I come to you from northern Maine. I'm at the cabin this week. I'm up here practicing self-isolation. I guess that's the new word of the week. I've been up here most of the winter. I went home for about a week and then came back up for another month. But here I am back at the cabin again. Now we call it self-isolation. But this is a follow-up on a video I did last week. So I will drop a link to it down in the descriptions for you. And the video was quarantine life and old school skills. Woodsman survival kit, long term. And that's what you see here on the table is all these pots and all the pieces that I consider to be essential in the uncharted waters that we find ourselves in today. Where it comes to food and preparation of food, and what some people think are necessities, when in reality they really aren't. You can get all this from the other video, but what I'm going to talk about now is the food. Is what kind of foods would be good to pack away. If you come to this point and you have nothing in your cupboards or nothing in your pantry, there's going to be some items that you're going to want to go look for. And what I'm seeing right now in the grocery store is these items are still there. You could be ahead of the curve as far as packing some of this stuff away. Now, I'm not talking being a prepper, and I'm not talking being a hoarder and going to the store and buying 5,000 cases of whatever. All I'm talking about is some of these foods will stay on the shelf a long time. They are very inexpensive to buy. And you can create a meal for a family that would last an entire week, depending on the size batch that you are building. So some of the stuff that I have on my list would be, I'm blind as a bat, I got to put my glasses on. Some of the stuff that I think is important to put on your stuff that you should have packed away is not toilet paper, it's not paper products. When the crap hits the fan, as we can see right now, all of that is already gone. It was gone within probably the first couple of days of the first person that got out there and said, hey, it must be a good idea to stockpile toilet paper. Because here we are into what, week 2, week 3, and you still can't buy a roll of toilet paper. But that's not a necessity item. I realize a lot of people are going to say, oh my God, yes it is. No, it's not. It wasn't that long ago that toilet paper didn't exist. It was our grandparents, our parents, my parents at least. If you're 20 years old, then you're way younger than I am. But my parents still had an outhouse. They grew up in a house with outhouses. My grandparents, when I was growing up, they still had a functional outhouse. So even plumbing wasn't that big of a thing 50 years ago. So we're not going back very far. I realize that most of us have never lived without it, and we cannot understand life without it. Well, here you're at. Some of the stuff that you've been accustomed to buying at the grocery store no longer exist. It's not saying they aren't building and they're not making it. It's being bought up before you can get to it. So you need to have a plan B. And that's just my thinking. So, but anyways, what I would have on the shelf, especially for long term, is I would have 50 to 100 pounds of sugar. Why sugar? Sugar is another one of them preservatives, makes food taste good. I have what's a rhubarb patch. I've always had a rhubarb patch. It's approximately 40 feet long. If you don't know what rhubarb is, you ought to look it up. It's coming up in the spring here pretty quick. It's a big leafy plant. The leaf is no good, but the stem is what you eat. And with sugar, you can take rhubarb and any fruit you can get. Apples, could be crab apples, could be your rhubarb. You can have peaches, anything you can get your hands on. You can go 50-50 mix, cook it down, add sugar to it, and you've got jelly for your toast. You've got jam for your toast. That's or raspberry season will be coming up. Sugar and raspberries, you do the same thing. Make all your jams and jellies. These are all easy things to do and easy to can. And the other thing I would definitely have on hand, at a minimum, is 50 pounds of salt. Why 50 pounds of salt? It's a preservative. It's a seasoning. You can do a lot of things with salt. So at a minimum, I would have 50 pounds of salt. The other thing I would have on hand is 100 pounds of rice. Why rice? Because you can drag anything home and add a cup of rice to it, and you've got a meal that would feed a family for a week. You can drag home a rabbit. You can drag home partridge. If you go to the grocery store and you can find the toughest piece of meat that they've got, you could still drag that home, put that in your pot, which would be either a pressure cooker or a Dutch oven, and you can cook that tough piece of meat down to where you can work with it. And then you can put that in your stock pot. You can simmer it all day if you want to make it tender. But with rice, you can add that cup of rice at the end. You can throw in an onion. You can throw in whatever you want in that pot to create a really tasty soup. And that's where your salt comes in. That's where your pepper comes in. Some seasoning, stuff that build up your pantry with ingredients, and not necessarily with 4,000 bags of potato chips or 500 pizzas that you can fit in your freezer. Build up your pantry with some of these things. Dry beans. Making homemade beans is very simple to do. It's not hard. You can put your dry beans in that pot. You can put it over a light heat. It could be a gas stove. It could be a wood stove. It could be a campfire in the backyard. So with dry beans, some brown sugar, an onion, some molasses, regular sugar will work. I like brown sugar. And you've got yourself, you could do a pot of beans that would feed a family for a week. And dry beans are expensive. Are inexpensive. And when you go to the grocery store right now, beans, rice, potatoes, carrots, all of that stuff is still in fully stock. The people aren't buying that. What I'm seeing, they're buying the crap. Who needs 500 rolls of paper towel? Come on. You must have some old t-shirts, anything. But if you're trying to feed your family, we don't know how long this is going to last. I'm hoping we're through this fairly quick. But I'm only doing this video because I want to talk to the people that haven't done anything to this point. These are the foods that would get you started with a nice pantry that you could feed your family for 3 months, or you could feed your family for 6 months by continually adding to this list. But it's all dry goods that will not spoil. They will be there 6 months for you from now. And the same thing with like canned goods. You can't go to the store and buy canned goods right now. Everybody has cleaned the shelves off of canned goods. So you can take a pressure canner. You can go to the grocery store and you can buy your carrots. It is very simple to can carrots. And they're very delicious. Especially canned. You will not go back to a store-bought can of carrots once you've had a homemade can of canned carrots. A lot of words for my tongue there to straighten out. But you take carrots. All it takes to can a carrot is cut it down into 1/4-inch pieces like you would do to make a soup. Fill the jar up. Put some water in it. You can do it with salt or without. They both taste the same. I like it with just a little bit of salt, but I also like them without it. So I kind of go back and forth on that while I'm canning them. But that's how, now you put your lid on it. Canning is something you can learn how to do it. This canner comes with a book. It comes with all the times, charts, and you can also buy books. There's nothing difficult about canning food, especially vegetables. When you get into canning meat, it gets a little bit more problematic, but not that bad. It's just a matter of pressure cooking for a longer period of time. I've canned fish. I've canned seafood. I've canned beef. I've canned pork. Pork and chicken is my favorite. So if you can get your hands onto this stuff, and you don't want it to spoil, and you don't want to have everything frozen in a freezer, 1 pound of pork will make 1 pint of pork in here. This will hold 20 pints. So you get 20 pounds of pork. You can freeze it. You can can it up. When you pull it out of there, you have 20 pints of pork. And you can use that pork in anything. Same thing with the chicken. One of the ways I really like it is I'll dump out the pork, juice and all, into a frying pan, get it warming up. I'll throw in some flour. I'll throw in some seasoning. Let that thing stir together, and it's a treat. It's a treat. One of the other things that I would go to the store and try to get my hands onto is a large sack of potatoes, a large sack of carrots, a large sack of onions, and 5 or more gallons of cooking oil. Why the cooking oil? Well, one of the other things that's been hard to get out of the stores is margarine or butter. Butter has been easier to get than margarine for whatever reason. But instead of using your margarine for cooking, you can use the oil for cooking. You can fire up your frying pan, you can fire up your cast iron Dutch oven, you can put oil in it instead of margarine. I don't like to cook with butter. It has a easier burn point, so I very, very rarely cook with butter. But by having oil, you can make French fries. There's a slew of things that you can cook with oil. So that's why I think in the basic pantry you want this stuff to get you through 6 months to a year. I don't think 5 gallons of cooking oil would be too much to have on hand at all. And the other thing that I don't think you can have too much on hand of is flour. Flour, you can make anything out of flour. And the other thing that goes along with that most people seem to would probably might forget about is baking powder. So if you've got flour and baking powder, you can make biscuits, you can make pancakes, you can make pizzas dough, you can make the list goes on and on and on about the different all the things you can make with flour. But having flour on hand is just, to me, one of them. For me, I want 50 pounds of flour, if not more. So, and the same thing with the baking powder. I want 10 pounds of baking powder. Now I realize there's 1,000 other things that you can put on this list, but these are items that need to be cooked. And the reason that I put this list together of items that need to be cooked is because some of this stuff, I went into the grocery store the other day on the ride up here. The canned aisle was empty. The meat aisle was empty. The vegetable bin was completely fully stocked. Carrots, potatoes, turnip, cabbage, everything, onions. So I purchased a sack of potatoes, I purchased a sack of onions, sack of carrots, and I did pick up a turnip. It's called a rutabaga now. I picked up a big rutabaga because we always fill the freezer up with corned beef right after St. Patrick's Day. It's just a thing we've done for a billion years. After St. Patrick's Day, all the corned beef in the grocery store goes on sale. So my wife knows that if a corned beef is less than $4, to buy it. So she might come home with 10 to 15 of these corned beefs every year on St. Patrick's Day. And then that's what we eat for the following year. I like to have corned beef and cabbage and potatoes is an excellent meal here at the cabin. So I come up here and I have my corned beef. So that's why for so much carrots and potatoes and all that stuff. But these are big meals that will sustain you and your family. And like I said, who knows how long this is going to go on. This is just plain uncharted waters. I have no idea. I have no idea. Here's another thing that you don't have to stockpile. And that is any kind of batter. Like fish batter or chicken batter, stuff like that. It is very easy to make your own batter. So if you go to the store and you look at batter, flip the box around, see what's in it for ingredients. You can do a lot better at home with a basic pantry. You start out with a flour mix, add some salt, add some pepper, add some garlic, any other flavorings that you like. I like cayenne pepper because it usually makes for anything to have just a little bit better kick to it. So having cayenne pepper, black pepper, salt on hand, garlic powder on hand, whatever you have, if you can get your hands on it. It's very simple to make a chicken batter for deep fried chicken. You could take this Dutch oven over here and you can put a 1/4 inch of oil in it and you can make a batter up, your own personal batter. My recipe is flour, salt and pepper, and some cayenne pepper. And then I put all that into a gallon freezer bag, or you could put it in a sandwich bag, any kind of bag. Shake it up real good, throw your chicken in there. Boom, you got your chickens all lathered up with your new batter. Then you lay the chicken in your Dutch oven, bring it up to temperature, put your chicken in, skin up, and just let it sit there for 10 minutes. And then after 10 or 15 minutes, flip it over, do the same thing. Turn the heat up just a little bit, and then probably, the whole thing probably doesn't take 15 minutes to deep fry a nice piece of chicken. And then you can have another pot going with that cooking oil that I was talking about for French fries. Be careful, oil's hot, oil's dangerous, but you can have French fries and deep fried chicken as a treat 1 week. So these are all very simple items to make. That's why simple ingredients on your shelf is where this Woodsman's head is at. And hopefully this will help you with your basic supplies of getting yourself through the next 3 months, 6 months, however long it's going to take to get to the other side of this. I am not a gloom and doom person. I am just hoping to help anyone that finds themselves with their back against the wall without the basic supplies to get your family through the next 3 to 6 months. At the end of this video, I'll put you in some links to more topics about the great state of Maine. There'll be 3 of them. I also have a round circle back there. I'm standing next to a bear. Click that bear if you'd like to subscribe to my channel. Looking forward to meeting you, and come along with me to the state of Maine.